Hello, I'm Graham Nolan, co-chair of Storytelling and Partnerships for Do the Work, he, him, his pronouns, and you're joining a Hey Fam episode continuing our vital and vibrant discussions for Pride Month. Before we jump in, Do the Work is a queer creative community and platform empowering the ad industry and marketers alike to inspire, reward, and celebrate queer creativity within marketing and advertising culture. We know that active inclusion for queer talent unleashes untapped creative potential to advance business. When we're ourselves, everyone wins. So today with Hey Fam, we're having a discussion to explore how we, and you, stay creative and connect with queer creativity, especially during quarantine, to keep inspired and do the damn work. Here's what you can expect. Our amazing guests, Sarah Sears of Laundry Service and Kim Colweck of Starcom, both of whom have alliterative names, which is awesome. We'll talk for about half an hour, and so they stay focused on really diving into their own creative process. They're not monitoring chats during that time, but submit questions whenever you're inspired, because near the end of our show, our producer Jake is going to read the questions that they can address for a good 10 minutes total. Also, just so we're all clear, creativity is a positive energy, so we have ground rules. Questions can be honest and challenging, but also be kind. Keep it focused on how we can change the work, talent, and culture of advertising, which is a broad topic, so we should have no troubles there. And just know that we'll get to as many questions as we can within that time. Housekeeping items done. We're going to let our amazing guests introduce themselves to kick off the dual interview. The floor is yours, my friends.
All right, hi there. My name is Kim Colweck. I'm the Executive Vice President of Operations for Starcom US. Not on the creative side, so my creativity and my area of expertise and focus and that of my teams is on solving business problems, where we work in every single system that our teams use, our buying planning systems, we do reporting for clients, we do project management, we do physical facilities management, and basically anything an external or internal client team needs to perform and to do their best work. I've been in the industry a little less than 5 years. I'm an industrial engineer by training, and I spent the majority of my career in the supply chain for major telecom companies. So lots of a neophyte to the advertising and marketing world, but certainly a lot of great general business experience and a lot of problem solving. Some fun things that I've done. I actually was one of the first in Motorola to build cellular phones and infrastructure equipment. So that was a startup a very long time ago. And I have been an athlete my entire life. So much of my leadership and much of my experience kind of pulls in both the technology and the team leadership from my past. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, first of all, super stoked to be here. Thanks to the work for having me, and thank you, Kim, for having this really important conversation with me. I'm incredibly excited to be here and have this just such a crucial conversation. You know, I am a creative director currently at Laundry Service. I've been in the industry for 10 plus years in relation to creative marketing and advertising. Anything from in-store marketing to social to digital. Have definitely had the pleasure of kind of working across several mediums in relation to advertising and creative work. I just moved to Portland about almost a year and a couple months ago, but the root of my kind of creative existence obviously started when I was a wee little lady, but definitely flourished when I moved to Chicago 13 years ago for college, and that is kind of where I started to pave the way for myself within the creative industry, and specifically within art direction and graphic design, and now very luckily becoming someone who can lead and work with incredibly talented creatives out there. Some fun facts about me. I echo Kim. We talked about this a little bit. Our love for sports and being active. On this side, I compete and teach boxing. That for me as well has like a huge kind of play into how I lead as well, and just like how I kind of try and bring in camaraderie. That is a huge proponent of being athletic and being in sports and being on a team. So that's a huge part of how I kind of drive the work I do as well. So yeah, super stoked to be here. I think with that, maybe we can go ahead and dive into the first question, which I'm going to pass to Kim first.
All right.
Awesome, let's do it. So what can queer people in our industry do differently? As leaders in our industry, what can we do better and do more of?
Wow. So I think one of the things that I've really focused on and what I've really observed, and by the way, compared to the other industries that I've been in, certainly advertising and marketing is far more inclusive across the entire spectrum. I am back up a little bit, but I also am the co-executive sponsor of our Spectrum, which is an umbrella organization that houses our business resource groups, our pro bono work, our Starcom Day of Service. So we have an amazing array of opportunities and groups for our talent. Most of the places that I've worked before probably had one or two kind of token groups. So I think that as a starting point, our industry is doing a great thing and doing a lot of great work as well as the leaders in it. That being said, I think we can do more and I think we can do better. Look, to be really honest, we all know leaders that are clearly members of the community and maybe a little bit visible, but they could do a better job of being more visible. I know it's a very personal topic. People have all of their reasons for it, but I think now more than ever, we need it. Our talent needs it. The industry needs it. We need to be more visible. And if we are visible, be more accessible. Be accessible to the talent. Be accessible to engage in conversations like this. Provide more role modeling and really walk the talk, right? I mean, we are in a very unique and powerful position as leaders. We have to be able to use that power for good and for positive change, and to really inspire the next generation of our leaders. So I think it's about more. It's about more of all of the above.
Totally.
I mean,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, I think that as leaders like that identify, you know, within the community, I think that to your point, you know, we have to kind of help pave the way for other people to kind of come out and have those, you know, more challenging discussions or kind of take away the stigma of those discussions, you know, and the more that we can continue to like drive those conversations, like I think that, and even saying like, I will be the first person to be like, send me an email, send me, you know, a LinkedIn message, and I will gladly like talk about that. If it changes, if my voice or our voices as leaders change one person's kind of approach to their queer identity, like that is especially in the industry, like that is such a huge win. And I also think like what you were saying is like we have to be present as well, like within the culture within our community, like having the right discussions, and also like to be a little bit more literal when it comes to like what that means in the creative space. Like we have to show our community, like as advertisers, like we need to make more of a presence for the queer community, you know. And I think that's, to your point, that's starting to happen. We're starting to see that here and there, but it's definitely still incredibly minimal, you know, in relation to the target, you know, like the people that are out there that would resonate with being more included within those advertising moments that we're kind of pushing out into the world.
Yeah, so I know you've done some interesting things and some very purposeful things in sort of the creative that you're responsible for. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's hard to come up with like an exact example. I think that there's been like these really great small moments, you know, where we're having perhaps like more uncomfortable conversations, and for if they're uncomfortable, it's probably because we're talking about the right thing, You know, if there's a little bit of discomfort in the conversation, it's because we're talking about things that need to be spoken about within like the creative we're putting out into the world. And that could go, you know, as big as like the whole kind of platform or the whole campaign is based around our community or our queer community, or it's like we did one piece of creative that acknowledged the queer community. You know, it's like that could be as small as a banner ad to a whole campaign kind of derived from that. You know, so I think there's kind of like really great small wins even in pitch work where we can showcase you know, a little bit of queer culture with that. So it's definitely something for me to kind of raise in the room, like when applicable. And I always kind of talk about having those uncomfortable conversations when they're needed. You know, it doesn't mean every single time we have to be like, wait a second. It's just like in those moments.
Forgot the queer, right?
Exactly.
Forgot the queer.
Exactly. It's more like in those moments where it is really like, I think we're missing an opportunity here. You know, like even one particular example, like within the home space, like, you know, home is where everyone can be 100% and like authentically themselves. Like even outside of kind of what you were talking about, where maybe we're not showing ourselves 100% outside of our home, but that is a place we can be. So we should find opportunity with certain clients to talk about that and like really represent the community in that way.
So what's interesting about sort of our dynamic to me is that my, you know, focus is primarily internal, right? So supporting those that are doing the work, supporting those that are providing the external output, the tangible output of, you know, so much of what we see, of what we share of the value that we provide to the clients, our core businesses, our core competencies. I think it's equally important that, you know, we set the foundation internally for people to really feel like they can do their best work because they're able to bring their true selves to work every day.
That's
okay?
so true. And that plays such a huge point. Like to your point, like what you're saying is like, I am empowered to be 100% myself in my workplace, which allows me to then 100% put myself out there and have those conversations. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so if you think about it, right, if you are spending, if we have team members that are spending time not feeling like they can be themselves, feeling like they have to hold back, feeling like maybe they don't have a voice, or feeling like they can't be themselves, that has a real business impact to me. That means you are not using all of your talents to focus on solving client problems or supporting clients or each other, right? So that's an opportunity that's lost. And I can't stand the waste in any form. So that's where I think we can also do a better job internally as well as externally.
Yeah, can you talk a bit, like, I know that you're incredibly just like a leader in that within your company as well. So with Egalite, like, can you talk a little bit about that work that you're doing and just like, again, like, thank you for all the work that you do like in relation to that. But I would love to hear, and I think everyone would love to hear just like even a little bit more about that.
Sure. You know, so Egalite has been around now for, I think this is the 12th anniversary. So it's a very, very well organized and long-standing organization. So I wish I could take a little bit of credit for it, but it was here long before I joined. And one of the things that, but it has continued to evolve and continue to get to become even stronger. One of the things that I really enjoyed being a part of and hopefully had a little bit of, played a little bit of a role in actually activating is the internship program that we had started about 4 years ago for LGBTQ plus and allies, incoming seniors and students. So the team, the Egalite leadership at the time, came to me and said, hey, we would love to do an internship program. We want to do it and make it a bit more unique, that we would actually be recruiting and soliciting college students that identified as LGBTQ+, And what we have as a unique offering is a portion of their summer spent in media and a portion spent in advertising, because we literally spend we spend time in both the Burnett with Leo Burnett in the creative space, and with Starcom in the media space. So what an amazing offering, right? Where do you get an internship opportunity like that? And so we had a certain amount of interns as an agency that we allocated each year. And so kind of said, why not? Why don't we propose that? So the team did an amazing job of formulating a program, of doing the awareness, of doing the outreach, doing the, honestly screening, because they received a number of applicants. And we activated on that to in that first year, probably 4 years ago, we got about 3 or 4 students, and it's grown since then. It's also expanded to the New York facility, and to Egalite, to that New York chapter, taking a bit of a pause this year, as it's very difficult to activate any kind of internship program. But really proud of the team coming forward with that kind of idea, because the other piece of this is, how do we perpetuate and how do we actively recruit for LGBTQ, students? I mean, we had, honestly, we've had really great success and retention. I think we've hired 9 of the 10 applicants, and one woman actually went to a different creative agency. We couldn't retain her within the Publicis network, but it was just a great experience. And they've worked on campaigns, they've worked on briefing books, they've done all kinds of things. So I think that's the way that the groups are evolving. There's more intersectionality right now. Certainly the focus for Egalite right now, and the leadership in all the BRGs, is focusing on our Black teammates and colleagues, because we have some very specific skills and great energy, and that's the area that needs the focus right now. But I think that's just one of the examples of the many groups that we have. But Egalite is very strong and dynamic, and that's the key. We have to keep evolving our teams.
That's incredible. And I think that, that even kind of dives into, the importance of bringing that diversity to the workplace in any way possible, and like the importance of having that diversity on your team, like, within sexual orientation, within race, everything is so crucial as leaders, that we continue to also make those changes happen, and make sure we're bringing those applicants as often as possible as well.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges too within our teams is that, certainly, and within our agencies, certainly, our team members have to feel comfortable, and it's a self-identification thing. We can be visible, right? As leaders, we can be visible. We can make ourselves accessible, but it's not like we're walking down the hallways going, "Hey, you're gay. I think you should come talk to me," right? I mean, so, I guess I ask as a leader too, is to, if you are a member of the community in our agencies, please have the courage to come forward and to join. And if there aren't groups to join, ask to form one, and seek out the leadership, because we all need those advocates, and we all need those allies. And so, the ask is reciprocal, right? We're there, you and I are there. Come see us, take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, while it's not all puppies and kittens, there's still challenges around being queer. Have you ever experienced anything negative, do you think, as a queer woman?
Yeah, that's a really, interesting question. And to your point, there is still those moments, like being a queer person and putting yourself out in that way that, can obviously, you kind of get both sides, right? And I've been pretty lucky in sense of the experience and inclusiveness and the acceptance I've had. I think as a female leader in general, this is probably something a lot of females can specifically talk to, regardless of being queer or not. There is like the moments of a more assertive, strong female within a leadership role can kind of be perceived negatively rather than, in a strength way. And then I kind of adding on that addition of, someone like myself who has a little bit more of a masculine edge to them, that doesn't necessarily consider themselves feminine nor masculine, just kind of in between, in which, even like socially has been an interesting kind of experiment for me, where I'll leave and go to a different country and people aren't sure if I'm a female or male, regardless that it's not really, doesn't matter, right? But the point is like there's kind of like that interesting balance. So kind of adding in that addition of masculinity, I think, adds another layer of complexity as being a female queer / kind of androgynous leader. I think just introduces, new social barriers. And so it's kind of like figuring out the right way around some of those conversations. And I think it's just it's great that, and I want to say it's great that we can have these conversations right now. And thanks to, leaders like you, Kim, and leaders like my mother-in-law, who was, in a leadership role as a female. And I have people to go to have these discussions about, because they're incredibly important. And there have been, again, moments where that leadership has been kind of taken a different way, rather than in a positive way.
Yeah, so it's interesting in that, I think from my experiences, it's not been so much as a queer woman. It's more of a woman, period.
Totally.
So I have to say, in complete transparency, within Starcom, within certainly the industry as I know it, the little that I do, I have not experienced any. And I'm somebody who's very, I guess, conscious and pays attention to a lot of details and sort of the subtleties. I honestly, in this industry, have not experienced anything untoward or anything negative as being a gay woman. That being said, in my previous life, absolutely, I think, and it's the same challenge as you face, Sarah, as being perhaps the only female in your space. When I was, in supply chain, when I was in the hard science part, the high technology part of it within manufacturing, it's definitely, you're the only woman in the room, you're the only woman on a trip, you're the only woman at the bar, you're, everywhere you go. So I think if I experienced anything negative, it would have been as more of a woman and less of as being a queer woman, which is honestly delightful. But I know that's not the experience for everyone.
Totally. That's what, and you kind of hit on earlier, like in relation to inclusivity and acceptance of, the LGBTQ plus community, like we as in the advertising community are just incredible. Like we have, we are an incredibly inclusive and diverse and welcoming, just kind of group of people, and I will say, like, that does not go without recognition of the
right.
amount of acceptance as a queer person is just incredible. And I think, kind of to go back to what you're saying again, like it's hard to know if that element of the queer side of being a more masculine, lesbian, is a part of that other side, which is the female side
right.
of it, which it's hard to kind of know. You can't know without knowing and knowing, people's perspectives of how they perhaps like perceive you. And so it's kind of it's an interesting question, and to kind of designate, was it because I was a masculine lesbian or was it because I was a female, is kind of hard,
Right.
And I know that you can agree that that's something we have always kind of talked about, is like the importance of more females within leadership roles. But of course, with that does come that kind of challenge of ensuring that you're keeping it balanced as well,
right.
And not being what we would say is like too assertive or too strong, which is a very interesting thing in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like nails on the chalkboard when you even say that, right? You're
yeah.
like, nobody tells our male colleagues they're too assertive or too strong. Okay. And true. I've heard that a lot. I've been working a lot of years. So, but I think that, but again, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah,
and because of our position sometimes, or most of the time, and because, we didn't get to these positions without having to go through some of the tough work and to have a bit of a thicker skin, if you will. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just not happening to us. And that's where I really hope that our teams will feel comfortable coming to whoever they choose as a leader, a coach, a mentor, an ally, an advocate, and sharing those things, because those are the things that we really do have to root out, right? They still exist. I know they do. They do. But, how do we, we can't fix a problem if we can't identify it, right? We can't get to the root of it, right? And so.
Go ahead, sorry.
No. I mean, it's just, I'm very passionate about, solving problems at the very root of them, right? And not just putting not just the triage. Let's fix this for good. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that confrontation is not a 4-letter word. It just means, showing the light of day to what's really going on.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I was saying, like, it's important to recognize how incredible it is that we are having these conversations, and like even this conversation and the incredible just like platform of Do the Work to have these conversations. Exactly. Like incredible, right? Because if you were to even, can't give it exact time, but like, at one point it was like, shh, it was like, don't talk about it, just let it go through. Like, don't mention you're gay in the workplace. Don't do this, don't do that, and it was better just to stay like hush hush about being gay within the workplace. And I would even say, like, when I first started, like in the industry years ago, it was still kind of, even at that time, odd for me to come out in the workplace, and that was only 10 years ago. So I can only imagine what it was like, how, like 20, 25 years ago,
or 30 or more years ago. Yeah, it was completely different. Different. And so while I sort of appreciate and certainly appreciate the work of the people that came before us, that's why I think I'm so passionate about, we have to continue to work forward, right?
Because 100%.
So many people really had to sacrifice and to allow us to get to where we are, right? None of us get there on our own, right? That is the truth.
I think, Kim, to that point, like, also, I think one thing that is important for us to do as leaders is like, call out those moments where you maybe see something like that happening, where, there is discrimination in the workplace, God forbid you would actually see something like that happen. But, it's important as us, as leaders, to like have, again, like those challenging conversations, where sometimes we can just kind of like let it go, but it's like, no, we need to have and talk about those moments that maybe are happening. And again, that's just more as like if we were to see it happen, like, right. As leaders, we need to make sure those conversations are had, and kind of guide that conversation about why maybe a particular thing isn't right when you say it, or why, just kind of educate within the workplace, and what, what you've done as well in relation to educating within the workplace, so people can feel comfortable and confident and 100% okay being themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I really do. I sort of, I'm not trying to harp on that, but there's all of these, how people perform, how capable they are. It's all related. I mean, I'm like it's like pulling a thread all the way through it, right? Mm-hmm. The more comfortable people are, we as queer people, I believe, have developed sort of a unique set of attributes, right? And it comes from, I guess, perhaps growing up different in most cases, perhaps having to work through things, having to speak up. So there's that persistence, there's that, I guess, ability to see the long game, to play the long game, right? Not just looking for, small incremental change, but significant change, but celebrating the incremental changes along the path, right? So there's a resilience, there's a creativity in terms of problem solving. There's a compromise, which is essential to everything. Any kind of relationship, client or personal or friendships, right? And so we are uniquely positioned to be able to offer those things to our business problems, to our client problems, but only if we feel like we are who we are every day, right? So it's that step back so that we can unleash all of that, unleash that creativity, unleash that problem solving, understand that we're going to be successful and not be sort of discouraged at the very first, I guess, negative response, or the very first, no is just the beginning, right? That we know better than that, right? You're not just gonna give up. There's that spirit of perseverance and just willingness to keep driving forward that honestly every business needs, not just our industry, but every business wants those kind of people. If you were hiring people for your own company, those are the attributes that you would want, right? So I think that it's so related, and I think that we just have to root out those inequities wherever they exist, deal with them, put them to bed, and let's let everybody move forward and be their best self.
Yeah, you talk about, I know we talked to about, just love kind of that, the term of perseverance, within our community specifically. And I think you said it so right when you were just like, you might hear no, but we all know that we'll change that, kind of like this like forge forward mentality. And that's something that is so important, like the word perseverance within our community, continuing to forge forward, continuing to fight, to be who we are essentially. Right. And it's that makes it even more important in the workplace to feel 100% yourself.
Well, and think about it from your perspective. How does every client love your initial pitch, your Absolutely. Initial concept? Well, what do? You don't walk home, you don't pout, right? Does every idea that I have, albeit brilliant, all of them, do they get accepted? No, of course not. But that's just the beginning. We'll figure out a different way. We'll take a different approach. We'll wait. It could be the audience. It could be the timing. It could be, that moment of the day. It could be so many things. It could be we didn't consider something, right? Mm-hmm. But you keep going. There are so many paths to success and to a decision and to a change and to, I don't know, making things better. Like we have that unique sort of attribute. Mm-hmm. is the only word I can think of. And
fuel the fire, if anything,
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's I hate to kind of just be, I'll use sports metaphors, but since we both share that, I
It
will.
worked for
But
us. It's
you,
good.
you miss every shot you don't take, right?
Yeah, true.
And if you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame as a major leaguer. So it's like, okay, how, are you going to give up every time that you're defeated? No, that's just the beginning. It just makes you work harder. It just makes you, want to learn. So I think, again, we've honed that skill, right?
100%.
We've had to hone that skill. It's how we've survived. It's how we thrive. And so I think we need to set that example for our talent and show them that, hey, it's don't be defeated. Don't take this down. Look, we weren't predicting that there would be a 6-3 decision on workplace protections from the Supreme Court this week, right? But those plaintiffs put that forward. The companies that signed on, by the way, Publicis Group was one of the ones that signed the amicus brief, so friend of the court brief to actually encourage it from the side of an employer. If we do those things, it's like we have to do it. We have to put those things forward.
Yep, 100%.
So, I'm trying to, I know when we, I know you've got some specific things. I think that, I guess really where your identity as a queer woman has actually improved business for your clients, right? So something that you added, that little extra, special piece of us that we have. Give me an example of one of those things, just to share with everyone.
Yeah, like essentially, like within the workplace or within client specifically.
Anyone.
Awesome.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, they're all relevant. They're all pertinent, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Recently, a big push of mine, or discussion of mine, and I think maybe an important discussion for all queer people as we, continue through life, is like the importance of seeing pride outside of just a singular month, and it's a really important thing for me, especially being a creative and a creative leader at that. And I can't tell you how peeved I get when I see just everyone turn their logos like a rainbow color. And it's like, what are we doing outside of that? Like, what are we doing to be proud all year? Like, instead of having conversations within this singular month. So that has been like a great chat and topic, like within some of the work we've been doing this year, and really happy to be a part of that discussion and be a voice in that. And I think that we're getting really brilliant and forward-thinking ideas in front of clients that we can start to think in that way. Start thinking outside of Pride Month just being Pride Month. Start thinking of progress being all year, like every day, and so we've had some, again, just like really wonderful and progressive conversations around that internally as well. Just, again, that importance. And that's been kind of that's been something I've kind of asked over the past, 10 years that I've been in the industry, is like, why every single month do we just kind of see these rainbow, like logos arise and nothing is necessarily being done. And for me, like, that is such a, what's the word I want to look for? Just like being a queer person and seeing that, I'm like, what are you doing about it though? You know what I mean? And that's kind of a big part of it. And same with, the recent, Black Lives Matter movements. It's important to me that the clients I work on are also kind of speaking to that as well. And so I think we've been such phenomenal conversation around it, and such important conversation around these different movements and changes that need to happen, and also different perspectives that need to be seen, and the voices that need the platforms right now versus like, well, this month is this and that month is that. And, you know,
Right.
it's just such a, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing, but also it's a constant discussion that we need to
Right.
always be having.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I can't, I can't imagine, you know, just clients that you must have to deal with at some point that come in and go, okay, it's this month. What are we going to do? You know, where's my new branding? Where's my new logo? Where's my new colors? And, you know, and to have those conversations, I'm hoping, and I know that many of our clients are much more progressive and much more evolved, but, you know, I'm sure those conversations still exist, and I'm happy that you're there to be able to sort of turn them back in the right direction.
I will say I'm incredibly honored to work with the clients that I do, because they are thinking in that way, and it's really
great.
Powerful to work with clients that are thinking that way, and having those discussions and wanting to, they're being a part of the change, and like that's really a beautiful thing to be a part of, not only at the agency, you know, being at LS, like just the inclusivity of our agency is incredible, and also the clients we work with are just like so wonderful. And so I definitely feel very honored. You know, of course, like in the past, like in the past I've experienced, you know, different moments like that, but I do feel honored, like, and very lucky at this moment to be working with such mindful and brilliant clients, that are thinking in that way. And I know that not everyone can necessarily say that.
Yeah.
It's great that and also incredible that we as the agency get to be a part of helping them have those conversations, those really important conversations.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So I think we got a little prompt from Graham. So
hi guys, I'm just here because we have some really amazing questions.
Okay.
For everybody watching, my name is Jake. I'm one of the programming leads for Do the Work. This has been such an amazing conversation, but I wanted to sort of bring some of our audience into it a bit. And so the first question I have, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Sarah, you mentioned, you know, having those tough conversations, especially with clients. You know, how do you balance being the role of an educator / advocate when the moment calls for it with clients? Because that can be a tough thing to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good question. You know, the important part is like having that conversation in a very kind of factual, knowledgeable way. Kind of keeping aside, you know, of course you have like a point of perspective and kind of you know, a little bit of a look into that topic, but I think it's kind of keeping your personal emotions aside and just being more educational around it, and kind of, again, like using conversation that is a part of the community conversation, or that is just kind of, again, like matter of fact, less about, oh, well, for me, this is what it was like. It's like, no, you know, kind of like move away from that. And it needs to be more about your community, the community, rather than your own kind of personal experiences, if that makes sense.
Totally. Kim, you mentioned that you started your career in telecom a while ago.
A while ago.
Back, you know,
5 minutes ago. It goes fast.
Were you comfortable in your full self and in your queerness at that time? And has that changed for you, you know, throughout your career?
You know what, I was always comfortable. It was really, honestly, to be sort of more visible was difficult. I tried not to think about it, but I'm absolutely sure that it probably did impact me a little bit. But one of the things that you know, has, you know, really been good over the time for me, I think, is that, look, things are evolving, people are evolving, our society is evolving. Some ways it's devolving, but you know, I think that the combination of me being more comfortable in terms of asserting who I am, and the societal changes around it, that has really, I think, what's improved for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm, if I think about it in retrospect, and it was a long time ago, I am sure that there were times where, sort of not feeling comfortable being quite as out as I am now, definitely probably impacted my work product. And I thought it was, incredibly productive and could sort of bifurcate those things and really put them somewhere else. I probably didn't, and I'm sure that it impacted my work product. So I'm happy to say that's not the case anymore, which is why I certainly want to make sure it's not the case for anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And as things have sort of changed, that sort of leads me to another great question is, could each of you go into a little bit of how you credit your creativity and success in the workplace with being able to be your whole self and true self and express yourself, with colleagues, whereas, historically that might not have always been the case?
You go, Sarah.
Sorry, just to clarify, just kind of like sorry, can you just repeat that one more time?
Yeah. How has being your full self in the workplace allowed you to really open up your creativity and really push the boundaries of what you do day to day?
Totally. Well, I don't know if you guys read my bio, but I am a weirdo. And when I am able to talk about, like my life and like my queerness and my experiences and my coworkers, like, and my teammates and my, I would say my friends, like at LS and the agency I work at, makes me feel authentically myself, and Kim, you talked about it a lot in relation to when I was in the closet, like, let's be real, I was like not dressing the way I should, like wanted to be dressing, not acting the way I wanted to be acting. And that translates the exact same way to the workplace.
Yep.
So I feel very, very just inspired by those around me to be myself. And I think that easily allows me to say the most bizarre things, maybe that that people will be like, but it lets me get those ideas out, and then that is where, that to me is like in brainstorms, and I know a lot of creatives say this, like there is no bad idea in a brainstorm. And when you feel comfortable and you feel yourself with your teammates and your fellow creatives, like that's when the good shit, excuse my French, comes out. That's like when the good ideas come out, when you're like, what about this? And like everyone's kind of excited, and like I do this a lot in meetings. I like move my hands. If anyone's
that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah, it comes out of my hands, all the ideas. But yeah, I just think it's exactly what Kim continued to talk about, was like, you're not really holding back, and like,
right,
not self-conscious, which allows you to feel inspired and excited, and creative, most important.
And I think other people see that too, and it gets their,
Totally.
flowing.
Yeah, lets them kind of like, it again, like kind of builds the fire, right? Someone else is like really excited, like then it kind of, it just like, it's like the first person that starts the slow clap, and then it's like, yeah, let's go. And then it gets
you guys are speaking a whole different like language of things. But no, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Seriously, I don't give 1 minute of extra thought to having to hide or being anything other than who I am. Literally what you see is what you get. You see me today, you call me a month from now, you talk to me tomorrow, I'm going to be exactly the same. And when your teams and your colleagues can see that level of transparency and willingness to be who you are all the time, I think that just really helps inspire other people to, well, shit, I can do that too. And I might have this thing that makes me different, but who cares? Because now I'm in an environment, in an atmosphere where all of that is celebrated, right? And my focus and my energies are going to go toward the work product, to go to being a better teammate, to being a better leader. I don't have to hold anything in reserve, right?
Right. Awesome. I guess that leads me to the next question, which is what around you within the LGBTQIA community do you see that's inspiring you about tomorrow's representation and culture and where we're moving and how we're moving forward?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, wow. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I can really identify a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I am inspired by certainly the younger people who are doing the yeoman share of the organizing, of the ideation, right? I'm also really inspired by the people in the community who are still fighting the fight, who, you know, the folks who really have set the stage, who've been the enablers for Sarah and I to get to where we are, and are still fighting the fight. Those people inspire me too, as well as the young people who are doing the majority of the organizing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sarah?
Totally. I think 100% agree, like, with everything you just said in relation to, you know, those that continue to be a part of that discussion and that fight, and kind of haven't lost any steam. You know, I mean, that's incredible. And then also, yeah, just like the youth, and also the fact that the youth feels they can present themselves in that way too, you know, and I think that is inspiring, you know, because I kind of had mentioned, you know, like 10 years ago or even before that, when it was even odd to feel like I could be queer within the workspace or talk about it, and, you know, not be more hush hush. But now I'm seeing a more those discussions happening earlier and more often, and that is kick ass. Like, that inspires me, and that means that the discussions that Kim is having and the work that we're doing as queer leaders, and everyone else that is doing the work, including the ones that have been doing it for so long but haven't lost any steam, are making change happen. And if that, again, makes one queer person come out in the office when they first start, like, they feel like that's something they can talk about, that is a win. Like, that is awesome, you know? That's like, just makes me so stoked, you know, and it makes me want to keep going, and makes me want to be even more weird and loud.
I love seeing those signs that say, you know, I was at Stonewall in the 60s and I'm still here now. And I just, it's so inspiring to see the breadth of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
100%.
Speaking of getting, you know, inspiring more people to come out or to be more comfortable in their skin or speak their truth, what are some ideas, you know, that you guys might have, or ways in which we can get more queer voices in the door? How can we, as agency leaders or company leaders, attract more LGBTQIA+ job seekers?
Well, I think, you know, certainly things like having or starting or establishing some kind of internship program where you recruit specifically for students. And by the way, you're right, absolutely right, Sarah, that they're identifying earlier and earlier. You know, when I sort of read about, you know, junior high students or, you know, high school students regularly identifying, and they know, you know, they know who they are. They're comfortable with who they are. We can certainly bring those young people in the door as through internships. But I think if you're as a premier employer, if you know, look, what I've learned is this is an incredibly transient, sometimes incestuous industry, right? People go from shop to shop and you know, agency to agency. Some people spend their entire careers at one, which is fabulous too. But we have, if you're known as that kind of employer, and that's who you can be, that is a recruiting tool. You know, again, you know, as we bring this back to how this is important to business, you want that talent. you have to have something to offer that talent. People know if they can be their true selves and they can bring it every day, and that we're going to celebrate them being who they are. That's a place I want to work.
100%.
Right? So, I mean, I think there's lots of ways we can do a better job of that, but be purposeful about it.
Right. And that's what Publicis does with Egalite, correct? You actively
Yep.
seek out people so that you can bring them into the fold, and whether or not they accept the job at Publicis or go to another creative shop, you've prepared them for being their true selves within the workplace.
Absolutely.
I think Kim answered that perfectly, and I have nothing else to say.
Okay.
I was just going to say something.
Shoot some magic out of your hands again.
I was going to say very similarly, just like showcasing the diversity of your agency or your business, and also like presenting yourselves as that inclusive place of business is so important, and it will immediately just create that comfortability and that approachableness, you know, as the business that you are. So it's ensuring that you're, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like being welcoming, you know, in relation to that, and being a part of that change. And if you want to be a part of the community, like, let's really be a part of the community.
Yeah, it is interesting. I've done some panels where we bring in certain colleges and things like that for, you know, as they're going through the Chicagoland area, right? They go to some of the financial services firms. They come to some of the advertising firms and stuff. And I've been part of the panels, and you have, you know, 20 or 30 college graduates or potential graduates sitting there. And I have to say, those young people are starting to ask those questions very directly. What is your position on, you know, what do you have? What do you offer in terms of social responsibility? What do you offer in terms of business resource groups or employee resource groups? Give me an example of you know, show me your, you know, here's your, who in your company is a queer leader? Literally. I had two people ask me that, and I'm like, well, here you go. You want an example? You want an example of this in action? Here I am. I'm sitting here. Okay. So I mean, that's really powerful. I mean, look, there's a lot of businesses that are vying for this talent, right? It's either we get it or somebody else gets it, right? So you put your best foot forward in every space. I think we're gonna, you know, start drawing those. We're gonna draw the kids out.
100%.
Yeah. I see the time, and I want to be mindful of people's schedules. I just have one more question for you before I hand it back to Graham.
Wow.
We talked a lot about
big sigh.
Yeah, that was a big deep.
I'm just thinking about how to phrase this. I'm combining two questions. So,
Okay.
you talked a lot about intersectionality and representation, especially with other marginalized groups. Do you think that your queerness has given you a different perspective on other marginalized groups and allowed you to, you know, in a way, live in their shoes? And how do you think that we can support, you know, each other?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I will say that one thing that I'm really passionate about is, like, without experiencing it, we can't live in their shoes, you know, and that's something I'm always incredibly mindful of, like, in specific conversations, and being very mindful of, I don't know exactly what their experience was, but I am here to listen to it. And I think that being a queer person, and you're naturally, or I hope, exposed to the rest of the community, which is a beautiful place to be, you know, and again, I don't think it's necessarily, it's put me in their shoes, like where I feel like I know what they went through, but it's given me the opportunity to at least learn about it, and have incredibly important conversations, and going back to like the conversations that need to be had so that I can be educated, and when someone says something that is completely incorrect or not valid, then I'm there to protect that other group. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's important for me to feel that I'm educated and a part of those conversations. I'm trying to think if that really fully answers the question, but.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Sarah. There's no way, particularly for the racial, minorities, that I could possibly know what it is that they're experiencing. But I as a, sort of a member of another marginalized group, I certainly have an appreciation for that. I think we can make amazing, co-conspirators, using my new words from today, that I learned today. I don't ever think that we can, stop supporting all of the groups. And I think we're in a unique position, particularly since we're doing so much work with, between groups and with multiple groups, and that we can break down some of the barriers that still exist between our community and some of those. I mean, that's the elephant in the room that we should be talking about. Some of those communities we have not had the best relationships with, and we need to talk about that as well, because we all can grow and learn from that. So.
Yeah, and just like to add on to that, just supporting each other, and kind of, I think that the education and try and at least educating yourself to understand,
right.
And have those discussions, but also like coming together as marginalized communities, understanding that again, we could never understand their experiences, but we can certainly come together and be allies to each other across all of those different communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, I will bring Graham back and he can do some closing words. What are you?
There he is.
All right. Hi. Thank you so much for having this conversation. As we sort of explain in sharing, yourselves and your story with each other, you're sharing it with all of us, and that's such a fantastic thing. And everything that you shared is like underscored with such compassion, and it's all about like understanding what you don't understand, and getting to a place of connection, once you sort of find that ground. So I think that as I'm listening, what I keep thinking is, wow, if I was more junior in this business, I would feel more comfortable talking to leaders now and approaching anyone else now in terms of like coming forward. So thank you for sharing that and creating that kind of feeling.
Thanks so much for having us. I mean, this has been really fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And Kim, I hope we can continue our own conversations. And
we absolutely will. No, this has been wonderful. It's a great platform. It's a great opportunity. Thank you for doing what you guys do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for having us.
We're grateful for you being part of it, and if you two become best friends as a result of this,
No doubt.
All that we want. I want to say thank you to Jake for producing, and everyone for providing questions, and for being here for the duration of the conversation. This has been this week's episode. To check out the next one, find the schedule at dothework.com. That's WERQ. Tomorrow, you can check out our live recording of Open Office Hours with my fellow Do the Work co-chair, Kate Wolf, at the helm. At the website, you can also sign up for more email updates and community connection activities. And you can follow us at Do the Work on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much again to our guests and to all of the viewers. And thank you for all the questions. And that's it.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.